From your perspective, how does Vietnam compare to the other markets you look at, whether it's in Southeast Asia or Latin America or somewhere else in Europe?
I mean, it certainly stands out if you look at the headline numbers, GDP growth, inflation. Obviously, there has been a bit of reshuffling, but ultimately political stability. At least headline, it ticks all the boxes. There's no other country that's getting close to that GDP growth, and Europe has its own problems. Other Southeast Asian countries have potentially even bigger problems. So on a relative basis, I still believe it's very attractive.
Can you echo some of the points that Chad might have made, given that I think for VOF you've done about 200 deals? Is that the right number? I can't remember. But any thoughts with what he said?
No, I think absolutely, Chad. The path to exit as an investor in what we do, it gives us optionality, and who would ever want to not have that, right? You always want the optionality. Obviously, to list, you want to be doing it in an environment where valuations are pretty good, right? You know, you want to be at peak valuations, because as a founder, a sponsor, as an investor, you want to be capturing that, you know, because, and I think if you look back in Vietnam's history, when you are trading at perhaps 1-2 standard deviations above the average, there's a lot of activity. As an institutional investor or private equity, you want to be preparing your companies for that eventuality. And you know, the market this year, we could debate about, you know, the structure of the recovery and the base of that recovery, but it is performing. And if you think about relative to ASEAN, Vietnam is doing well. And just before this, Iz and I were looking at some charts, and what really surprised me was, you know, last year, a lot of our conversations with our global investors, institutional investors, was, oh, India. You know, India is such a great performing market, really strong performance. Well, if you dig a bit deeper, it's very much retail driven. And guess what? Year to date, Vietnam is in line with India.
How has you seen the nature of the promoter, the entrepreneur? How has that changed over time in Vietnam?
We see one distinct change in the last 3 years, and that is something that China has already seen for 10+ years. These are very well-educated, highly technical and innovative founders that did PhDs in America or PhDs in Japan, but they've decided to come back to Vietnam, make Vietnam their R&D sandbox, low-cost R&D sandbox. So we have several companies like that today. That's exciting. That's the new kind of frontier of entrepreneurs we're seeing now in our pipeline. And I think and those companies are actually looking at listings outside of Vietnam.